They said justice was fair. 3 years and 6 months. That's what my mother's life was worth. Later on a bus, the protagonist stared at his ghostly reflection in the window. The doors hissed open at a stop, and our antagonist, already free and harassing an innocent bus driver, slapped the living soul out of him. "You dare report me to the cops? Call the damn cops. I'll be off the streets for a few days at most for something like this." He kicked him as he curled on the ground, and the protagonist understood. This was the justice the system protected. As the man staggered away, he saw the man using the phone. He approached and said, "What, you want to call the cops too?" he challenged, but the man, just listening to music. He walked away. Behind him, a woman knelt by the bloodied driver. "Should we call the cops?" The protagonist followed after him. The antagonist took out a cigarette and lit it, led him into a narrow alley. He stopped and spun around with a nasty grin. They confronted each other.
"Hey you, come here. You got a death wish?" he slurred. The protagonist asked how many priors he had. He laughed, a proud blush on his cheeks. "I've got 18 priors, kid." The protagonist asked how a monster like him could roam free. He threw a punch, but the protagonist was faster. He threw a punch and his fist cracked against his jaw. The shock in the antagonist's eyes was noticeable. He threw a hook, but the protagonist dodged. The protagonist didn't stop. He drove his fist into the man's solar plexus. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, looking up at the figure looming over him. Who are you?" he choked out. Protagonist said, "Remember, you said you deeply regretted your actions," before he had completed his sentence. The man roared, a raw sound of pain and fury, and launched himself forward. "I'll kill you!" he screamed. He managed to tackle the protagonist. As a heavy fist rose up to crush him, the protagonist's hand shot out with impossible speed, and his fingers clawed into the man's lower jaw. He yelled in pain, "Let go of me!" Then protagonist used the man's own momentum against him. He rolled, twisting the man's head, and in a flash, he was behind him. Smartly, he smashed the man's face against the solid concrete. The sickening crunch of bone followed by a wet, choked gasp from the man now broken on the ground. As the man lay twitching, the protagonist's mind was pulled back into the past. He was tormented by the memory of the day his mother was killed by a neighborhood brute. A simple bump on a busy street, and antagonist anger did the rest. She never woke up. The judge gave antagonist mercy, 3.5 years. The protagonist slid a cold metal knuckle duster onto his hand. "Thank you for staying the worthless piece of garbage you've always been." He lands a devastating punch in the exact same spot, pulverizing the jaw he had already shattered. He didn't just hit him. He delivered a methodical, punishing rhythm of blows. Each punch. The man's body convulsed on the ground, and with every impact, the protagonist felt a wave of transcendent clarity. "This is it," he breathed, his voice steady and sure. "This is what justice truly feels like." He looked down at the bloody wreck, his eyes holding a deadly promise. The memory shifted to a peaceful morning, a sun-drenched school filled with the sound of chatter and birds. Our protagonist arrived at school, a classmate called out, grinning. "Yo, top of the class. Congrats, man." The protagonist smiled modestly. "What are you talking about? That's not even a thing." "Everyone knows you're the best," his friend said. The protagonist just nodded humbly, hiding something deeper behind his eyes. Later, life didn't slow down. Two fighters lock eyes. No words, just tension. The student grips first, firm and focused, claiming control. The student's body moves faster than thought, which shakes the mat. The master hits hard. The crowd exhales. The coach shouts, "Keep going!" And momentum doesn't stop here. Two onlookers appear at the door, watching in disbelief. "That's protagonist," one says. "He's built like a champion." "Not just built," the other adds. "He tops every sport, even academics. Brains and brawn. Some people really do have it all." The coach smiles, proud as he talks about watching his student grow. Inside the locker room, the protagonist changes while a teammate walks in behind him. Teammate reminds him, "Don't forget the project in the seminar room." "Got it," he says. He pauses, holding something dark in his hand. A photo of his mother inside the wallet. He closes the locker. Later, students gather in a seminar room. Lecturer asked to share correctional policies on other nations. The class nerd jumps in. Can't wait to show off his Middle East research. He shoots his hand up for his research topic. The instructor warns him not to show any brutal pictures. The student brushes it off, then starts his presentation. He talks about weak punishments for violent crimes. He insists victims' rights should come before the offenders. The lecturer steps in. It's not the assignment's focus. The student argues back that victims' pain is ignored. He points toward the protagonist, asking for his view. The protagonist smiles, saying police exist for justice, not revenge. He faces the room and says, "Law must stay clear, calm, and fair." He ends the debate, and just like that, the topic's off scope. The student sighs, calling him cold-blooded for not siding with victims. The class murmurs while he stays composed with a smile. The lecture ends. He gathers his papers and leaves the room. Later, the student asks where he spends weekends. Police station, he replies. The challenger goes, every weekend? Not really, he says. After class, he's there walking behind 2 classmates. At the station sign, everyone said their farewells. 2 classmates whispered, he's heading to the station again. They smile, saying he's flawless and pride of their class. Protagonist boards the city bus. Here comes the destination, Ahung Police Station. Inside the Major Crimes Division, a detective spots him. Hey, you're early again. He just shrugs. Just got here. The detective laughs, saying, you're lying. I'll check the CCTV myself. The detective mutters to his fellow, careful, he might outrank us soon. Protagonist says he wants to discuss something. The busy detective says, stay here. He remains seated while the 2 of them were discussing something. He calmly absorbs the room. Something in his sight set his instincts on fire. A monitor showing top-tier suspect personal information. His eyes went wide. He shouldn't have seen this. Suddenly, the detective leaned on the desk. Hey, you there? The detective apologizes for being too busy to talk. He replies, it's fine. I came unannounced. As they walk outside, detective promises to grab food next time. He walks out of the police station. Inside, an officer says, this kid is a victim, right? The detective nods. Yeah, he exhales. To go through all that and still top the police university. He adds that every week he visits, calls me his mentor. He's grown into a fine young man. If his mother were alive, she'd be proud. Every Friday through Sunday, his ritual begins. That's when he hunts. He came up with a strategy while visiting the station. Sometimes he would find information, but mostly, it's a ritual now. A ritual to keep him alive. He chooses prey by 2 rules. Short sentence, repeated sin. Today's night is his hunting day. The pervert doctor, who secretly took private pictures of her female patients, gets no punishment by the law. Even his license was not revoked, ready to start again. A clinic made for something worse. The doctor is using the computer. A chat pops up. Someone asks if he's the online doctor and needs confidential help. He replies and tells her to send the affected area. She sends a private image to which he reacts. Damn. He offers in-person treatment. She gives an address and promises triple pay. The doctor gets excited. Of course, you dumb bee. He readies gear, injection, and suits up. Camera in hand, thinking this video will be perfect. The same chat shows on a stranger's phone. He drops the phone into a street drain. Here comes the protagonist, taking over the vigilante persona. The city looks clean, but terrifying. The doctor is walking, eyes fixed on his phone. This way, right? Navigating his way to a trap. He arrives at a narrow alley, and a guy is walking towards him. They bumped into each other. Oh, sorry. The doctor apologized. The doctor keeps walking, unaware of any danger. The hooded guy lifts a wallet. Are you Mr. Acker? He asks. The doctor checks his pockets, confirming yes, it's mine. He takes the wallet from the protagonist and thanks him. Without warning, protagonist punches his face, blood everywhere. Another punch follows, a brutal strike on the jaw. He grips his jacket and slams him. The doctor's head is covered in blood. Protagonist looms above him as he lies in pain. He opens the doctor's bag, finding needles and a camera, and preparing a syringe. Syringes pierce through the doctor's body. He drags the doctor to a machine. He loosens the vice while blaming the system that let him go. Protagonist looks down with a horrific smile, making sure to end it. The night, a doctor is found half dead in the dark. His hand was crushed slowly on purpose, in a vice, a message. He remembers nothing. Someone injected him with a dangerous medicine, his own drug, before the torture. A syringe and a camcorder were found beside him. He had secretly filmed patients. He was never punished. Now, wrapped in bandages, he refuses to speak and shakes from a fear deeper than pain. From his hospital bed, he even ordered his own computer destroyed. At the police university, cadets march with discipline. Among them is our protagonist, moving with a determination that sets him apart. On a screen, news covers the doctor's case. Students read it and whisper about someone taking control of justice. The protagonist calls them to work, his uniform crisp, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. The city buzzes. 2 thugs loom on a street, one oblivious. A young boy walks alone down an alley, carrying groceries. He gets nervous as he nears them. One thug glares, shouts, and raises a hand to slap. The boy tears up. Go or die here, the thug threatens. The boy runs for his life. The other thug scolds him for scaring a kid. I've done far worse, he brags. They walk side by side, arguing over morality, unaware of any danger. The thug admitted irritation at seeing the boy. A dark figure in a black hoodie watches them approach silently. He watches them as they walk around. The city at night looks beautiful and also dangerous to some. One thug lights a cigarette. The figure sprints from the shadows for a sneak attack. Both thugs pause to urinate in a peaceful environment, relieved and unaware. He rushes from behind and smashes the first thug's head against the wall, blood erupting violently. He pushes the thug's face into the wall. The other thug goes mad and loads his punch, but the protagonist counters with his own hammering punch. The punch strikes the rib cage, his face showing the punch's effect. The protagonist grips him, drives a knee into the thug's face, then grabs his hair and slams him into the ground. The protagonist spots the other thug finally awake, swinging a knife. They both confront each other. The thug, holding a knife, curses him for what he just did. The thug strikes to cut him down, but the protagonist dodges his blade, mixing it with a punch. The thug swings the deadly knife without any care. He dodges all the attacks. The thug is swinging the knife as his life depends on it. The protagonist backs away away and hides behind a pole. The knife slices past as he ducks. Sparks fly when the blade strikes metal. The thug lunges forward with the knife aimed at the protagonist, but he grabs his arm tightly and pulls him as hard as he can. The thug hits his head hard on the pole. He dragged him away from the pole. He pinned his arm against the ground and broke it. The thug screams in pain. The protagonist started smashing his face. Blood erupted as the terrified thug pleaded for mercy. The begging continues but is completely ignored. The protagonist raises his hands above for the final blow, his terrifying eyes glowing, committed to ending it. The night passes. We see a mother trying to calm her crying child. The boy was scared by the horror he witnessed last night. The woman looks unsure about what's wrong. She comforts him softly and encourages him to keep moving. He requests in tears not go. Another woman notices and explains that some thugs got beaten up ahead. As the boy notices the police car, he relaxes, moving on to the marching cadets of the police university. Someone is holding a book with red knuckles. It is the protagonist, back to his daily life task. Inside, a group is discussing something tragic about an article. The protagonist asks what happened. They reply, "Check out this article." The protagonist looks dead shocked watching the article as if something wrong happened. The cafe looks harmless at first, but the tension is emerging as the reporter arrives late, phone in hand. She leans forward, gives him 5 minutes, and dangles a correspondent position, while he reacts with visible doubt, already unimpressed and guarded. She makes it clear she's been investigating on her own and didn't come to be dismissed, sliding a tablet across the table and calling it the exclusive he asked for. He barely glances at it before scoffing, dismissing the content as nothing more than violent crime headlines. Ready to leave, he calls it a waste of time, but she stops him cold and orders him to sit. She slows things down and asks if he notices what all the cases share, pointing deliberately at the victims on the screen. The truth lands hard. All of them were serious criminals released by absurd court rulings, and when he hesitates, she tells him to listen closely. She starts listing names, beginning with a drunk driver who killed a family and walked free, followed by another killer spared because of intoxication, another murderer served only 3 years for burying his ex-girlfriend, another life erased, another parole handed out like it meant nothing. Public outrage erupts, not just at the crimes, but at courts that protect killers over victims, and the woman states it plainly. The law is failing the people. She shows him the comments, the anger, and the desperate cries for real justice left behind by the public. From that anger, a shadow emerges, fists soaked in blood, stepping in violently where the justice system failed. She explains that this is exactly what people want now. A vigilante, a dark hero born from rage, filling the space where trust in the law collapsed. She calls it a true exclusive, something no other outlet has the courage to run. The reporter pushes back, calling it coincidence. He worries about being wrong. She gets up to leave, saying she'll pitch it elsewhere, while he tries to slow her down, already losing control of the moment. Before walking away, she drops one last line, that someone else already cares about the vigilante, shocking him into asking if she actually knows who it is. Panicking, he gives in and offers her the position on the spot, and she calmly asks what they're going to call the series. The name lands with weight, vigilante. The news spreads fast, reporters repeating the name as violent attacks on freed criminals dominate the headlines. Analysts explain the term, saying the law now protects criminals more than victims, and someone has decided to take justice into their own hands. Blood behind police tape proves someone finally snapped. As the public is asked where they stand on this vigilante, public dismisses it as coincidence at first, but the pattern is impossible to ignore. This is a serial criminal. Students discuss the article in the hallway, while protagonist listens quietly, intrigued yet cautious. They head to class with the case stuck in their minds, wondering if their professor knows more than what's been reported. Night falls, and the protagonist walks alone beneath neon lights. A building looms as someone climbs its side, while inside, a woman sleeps unaware of what's about to happen. A sudden kick jolts her awake, and a man stands over her, burning with rage. He drags her by the hair and beats her, screaming about control and refusing to let her leave him. The violence drags on as she begs and apologizes, eventually curling up broken and bleeding. Fear fills the room while the abuser smiles in the dark, savoring her pain. Her screams echo as she begs him to stop. The doorbell rings, a voice calling from outside, interrupting the assault. The abuser snaps, accusing her of betrayal, while she desperately denies it, terrified of what he'll do next. A knife appears in his hand as he storms toward the door, fueled by pure rage. Promising to show how cruel he can be, he yanks the door open, ready to kill. He threatens the person standing there, only to find protagonist waiting silently in a black hoodie. The abuser freezes, sensing real danger, just as the door slams shut, trapping his hand. In seconds, he's grabbed from behind and crushed without mercy. The woman watches in shock, hands still tied, leaning forward as she struggles to understand what she's seeing. Fear and hope mix in her eyes. The protagonist holds the abuser until his body goes limp, the monster finally collapsing, powerless. Silence falls falls as the woman stares, unable to process what just happened. She crawls across the bed and screams for help into the night while the city sleeps. Footsteps fade away as police lights flood the street below. The protagonist stands calm with his face revealed, untouched by fear, as the word lingers across the city. Vigilante. Back at the studio, ratings explode and producers rush, hungry to feed the public obsession. The woman smiles, proven right. The reporter panics about consequences and truth, begging for a plan before everything spirals out of control. She reassures him calmly with a single promise: trust me.